Some parents seem to instinctively know how to create nurturing homes. They make their families a high priority, they're attuned to the needs of their children, they have a really good sense of personal boundaries, they possess excellent communication skills, and so on. Well, the good news is all of us can learn to become nurturing, more nurturing. Nurturing parents don't love their children anymore, nor are they better people. But what I do believe is that they follow better principles and they have better strategies for dealing with their children. The good news is that these principles and strategies can be learned by all parents. This isn't necessarily easy work. In fact, it takes commitment and dedication. It requires that we think more deeply about how we want to parent and that we deliberately design our family life to be nurturing. By the word deliberate, I mean carefully thought out, done on purpose, premeditated, not rash or hasty. I like to think that this starts with understanding the principles upon which we want to build our homes. By principles, I'm thinking about what we would consider to be some pretty fundamental, perhaps universal truths which influence human behavior. We don't necessarily invent principles. Generally, they already exist, right? We discover them, and then we do our best to make our actions align to them, because principles lead to certain behaviors, which lead to certain outcomes. See the cause-effect relationship here between our principles, our behaviors, and the outcomes that we want to experience within our families. As you can see from this diagram, if you want outcomes like those that I talked about at the beginning of the course, then we have to behave in certain ways. And these behaviors follow from an understanding of correct principles or making good assumptions. Here's a quick glance at these principles. I've identified them from research on successful families as well as observing, just watching what goes on in nurturing homes. And of course, I'm also giving you a PDF that has a lot more information so you can study them and think about their implications. But for now, here are the principles that I think are really important. We as parents are the authority in our homes. Our children are inherently good, capable, and trustworthy. Our children long to feel love and connection. We're responsible to, but not for, our children. Our children are responsible for themselves. Growth requires effort, even struggle. Limits and consequences teach wisdom and responsibility. Successful parenting requires that I grow myself first. And as parents, we are imperfect, and that is okay. I know this is a lot to go through so quickly, but I'm hopeful that you can see the power of being clear about principles. The principles that we follow or the assumptions that we make determine our behavior, which determine outcomes. Let me give you an example. Principle number 2 is our children are good, capable, and trustworthy. Think about how I communicate and behave if I accept and truly believe this principle. I'm going to treat my kids very differently than if I believe the opposite, that children are bad, that they want to do what's wrong, that they're untrustworthy, not capable. Of course, all children are immature and will sometimes behave in selfish and even irresponsible ways. But I want to suggest that I'll handle this very differently depending upon the principles that I believe. When my children do wrong, I'll respond differently if I believe they're fundamentally good as opposed to bad or evil. Our principles are important because they determine how we act. And because what we truly believe, how we act and what we believe actually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I believe that's true of all of these principles. I'll behave differently if I believe that consequences teach wisdom and responsibility compared to the belief that I have to be controlling and direct my children if they're going to learn responsibility and wisdom. I'll behave differently if I believe that life requires effort and even struggle rather than the belief that kids should really not have to struggle, that I want to make life easy on kids, and so on. So as we think deeply about our principles and we commit to live them, we become less reactive and better able to choose our responses to the challenges of family life. The better we're able to respond to events in ways that promote the development of our children. We start to see the kinds of characteristics we see on the right-hand column of this slide which, by the way, you can also download as a PDF. So go ahead, download the PDFs, and then take a little bit of time to study and ponder them. Perhaps you can make a copy. Carry these principles with you. Think about them. Do you agree with them? What do they mean to you? How would you modify them and make them your own? Which do you do a good job living today? Which could you improve in? Whereas this section of the program is about principles, the upcoming sections are about behavior. What behaviors do we do as parents that are negative and weakening and not aligned to true principles and lead us away from a nurturing home? What behaviors are positive and strengthening and help us create a nurturing home and raise responsible children? That's what we're going to find out. Well, first I have one more short video that I'd like you to do related to the principles of a nurturing home. It's an exercise to help you learn and practice these principles.